Is the iPhone 14 launching early? For the past 10 years, Apple has stuck to a fairly rigid iPhone release cycle. They announce it in the fall and then make it available within a week or two, usually, but this year might just be different. Apple is expected to launch a ton of new products in 2022, and they might be launching them differently than they ever had before. Also, what if Apple decided to fight back against the leaks and sort of started to leak or preview their devices much earlier than they've ever done before? Not because they wanted to, but sort of because they had no other choice. Let me explain. Whether you're a fanatic Apple fan or a die-hard Android enthusiast, basically anyone interested in tech knows when new iPhones come out. Like clockwork, every year, Apple has announced and released new iPhones in the fall, basically since the 4S back in 2011. And even before then, the iPhone was sort of the darling of WWDC, and Apple would announce it at the conference and then release it just a short time afterwards. It's basically always followed the exact same announcement and release cycle window, mostly. And even now in 2021, while there is a global chip shortage and supply chain issues, Apple is still working basically like clockwork to announce and release their iPhones as they've done basically for over the last 10 years. Even right now, at this very moment, as you are watching this video, teams are hard at work inside of Apple in Cupertino and around the world on their latest and greatest iPhone 14 flagship model. This is supposed to have no notch. It's supposed to have a versatile new camera system, the all-new A16 Bionic processor, an all-new design. The iPhone 14 is shaping up to be a really great upgrade, and actually, by all accounts, will be one of the biggest updates we've seen to the iPhone in a long time. This is not the 12 to the 13, but this is like the 3GS to the 4, the 7 to the 10. This is gonna be one of those monumental years that we will never, ever forget. And even though we are still months and months away from an announcement, and Apple has actually yet to even start building these iPhones, we already have gotten a lot of information thanks to all the leaks that have sort of leaked out from one source or another. And covering Apple leaks is a fascinating topic. There are so many different players in this space. There's feuds. It's always kind of hard to know who to trust and who not to trust. Apple leaks are fascinating, and if you kind of want to know how the iPhone 14 actually leaks, check out the video we just did on the subject up here and down below. But suffice it to say, the iPhone 14 has already started to leak, and Apple absolutely hates it. They don't want you to know anything about their device until they're the ones that show it off to you. And while Apple has been notoriously tight-lipped about leaks and rumors, they never comment on speculation or things that could be leaking on Mac Rumors or some YouTube channel. Other companies have not been the same way. In fact, it's been really interesting to see how leaks and rumors have changed companies in the tech world, and how some companies are even starting to not only embrace the leaks and rumors and even poke fun at themselves, but even start to be the source of leaks of their own devices. And this has definitely been sort of a controversial move, and some see this as sort of a good thing or a bad thing. Some see this as tech companies making themselves more personable, more sort of okay at kind of poking fun at themselves. It's kind of funny to be self-deprecating, while others see this as just a way to sort of drum up hype and excitement about an upcoming product, even though we're still months and months away from an official release. One way or the other, they're both kind of right, and it sort of begs the question, what if Apple was to sort of adopt this strategy with the iPhone 14 and some other future Apple products we could see very soon launching in 2022? Just dream with me for a moment and think about WWDC 2022 happening in June. What if at this press conference geared towards developers that Apple sort of took their apps off the iPhone 14? They showed off that radically new, radically beautiful design that looks super similar to the iPhone 4. They showed off the lack of a notch on the iPhone 14 Pro. They showed off the crazy versatile new high-resolution camera system. And they did this for a couple of big reasons. They sort of wanted to drum up hype about what could be coming in the fall, sort of showing off a really awesome preview, and also getting developers on board to sort of show off what technologies they had to work with so they could sort of get a jump start, sort of start developing their apps and tweaking them now, so by the time the phones launch in the fall, these apps would be ready to go and ready to take full advantage of all of the iPhone 14's top new features. And while all these reasons are well and good, at the same time as an Apple exec is showing off these sleek promo shots, Apple would also be sort of defeating the rumor mill, or at least taking a lot of the hot air out of the balloon and sort of deflating the excitement about leaks and rumors. They would be the one controlling the narrative. They would be showing off the iPhone 14. No longer would people be clamoring for leaks and rumors on parts and what could be coming next, because Apple just showed it off. Yes, the phone isn't coming for a few months, but hey, Apple's showing you here's what's coming, and here's why you should get really excited right now for what's coming a few months later in the fall. Now, while I think this is cool, and there are definitely some pros to this theory, and sort of it's cool to get hyped and excited and sort of see a preview before it actually launches, there are also some causes for concern and some cons as well. One of the biggest criticisms to this approach that other tech companies do all the time is that they're sort of cannibalizing sales of their current items for consumers who are waiting for the next big thing. If Apple officially announces the iPhone 14 in June, why would you buy an iPhone 13 from June through September or October when the new phones are coming? This is definitely a very valid criticism, I get it, but at the same time, I don't have any data to back this up, but I really wonder how much this actually matters, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that a new iPhone comes in the fall every single year. Like clockwork, in September or October, Apple's gonna show off the all-new iPhone, and it'll be available to pre-order usually later that week, and then available in a week or two from that point. But again, every single year, people still go online or go into the Apple Store in droves and buy the current iPhone model, even though the new one is right around the corner. Even when the iPhone 13 was announced and it was about to be released, people were still buying the iPhone 12 like hotcakes. At the same time though, the other obvious question that needs to be answered is how much would this actually help? Is Apple gonna really take a stand against leaks and rumors and sort of do something they've never done before just to get ahead of the leaks? Would this actually benefit them at all? Or is it better for them to wait till things are finished and sort of do things on their own timetable, or at least closer to the timetable they'd like to do things? Also, if leaks and rumors would stop around this point and Apple was to release or at least preview the iPhone 14 in June, wouldn't this sort of just accelerate the iPhone 14 rumor and leak cycle even more and push it up even earlier? Since Apple is supposedly starting development on it earlier, wouldn't the leaks just happen earlier? Again, a couple of different questions here sort of worth keeping in mind. I would love to see this strategy, but I don't actually think Apple is going to do it, or at least they don't want to do it. But like I mentioned in the beginning, with some of these new products coming in 2022, Apple might not have a choice. They might have to actually announce these products months before they're actually ready to be released for a couple of big reasons. In modern Apple history, I can sort of think of three good examples of Apple sort of adopting this strategy and sort of having to do this because they had no other choice. Back with the original iPhone in 2007, with the original iPad, and then of course most recently with the all-new first generation Apple Watch. And despite the excitement on stage from Apple executives and those sleek looking promo videos, Apple really didn't have a choice. They were forced to announce these products early for a couple of big reasons that are gonna be a really big deal in 2022. The first was for regulatory reasons. When Apple enters a new product category, when they made that first iPhone, you better believe there was gonna be a lot of FCC red tape, a lot of regulation hoops they had to jump through all around the world. And Steve Jobs is mentioned as saying that one of the reasons why they showed off the iPhone so early was because they knew it was going to leak through various stages of the regulatory filing process all around the world, especially here in the US with the FCC. These documents become public in one way or another, and everyone would see what Apple was going to do before they officially released it themselves. That's not what Apple wants. The second reason is that Apple needs to get developers on board, not only with their own enthusiasm, but also get them over to developing and getting these apps ready for these new screen sizes and new device form factors. The original iPhone obviously didn't launch with an app store, but the iPad and the Apple Watch did, and Apple wanted to give developers ample time to get excited about these new products and also start to develop new apps and optimize existing apps to be pixel perfect on these new screen sizes and these new devices. When Apple, sort of does year-over-year updates, it's not usually a big deal, but when they enter a new product category for the first time, developers do need a lot of time to sort of get things right. And last but certainly not least, sometimes Apple is just pressured to do things that they don't want to do because of, well, external factors. For example, when the original Apple Watch was showed off in 2014, I'm not sure if Tim Cook actually wanted to show off that device, but there was a whole lot of pressure for him to deliver something new, something developed entirely under his regime, so to speak, at Apple, under his leadership, because it had been a few years since Steve Jobs had stepped down and he had passed away, and analysts and skeptics and everyone was wondering how good Tim Cook was at being the creative leader, the visionary at Apple, and sort of for one reason or another, he was sort of forced to get that Apple Watch on public display and out to sort of everyone to see months before it was actually ready to go for a number of big reasons, but one of them being that he just was under a lot of pressure to show off what he could do as he sort of took the reins at Apple and sort of what Apple would look like and what new products would look like under his leadership. There still is some pressure as to what is coming next. Apple is working on a lot of new products. They're about to jump totally into some new product categories in 2022, and some of these first major products will probably, most likely, have to be announced months before they're actually ready to be released and go into our hands. The first example here is with Apple's new mixed reality headset. This is their all new product. They're entering a whole new product category, and this is supposed to revolutionize things the way that the iPad revolutionized tablets, the way the iPhone revolutionized phones. This is supposed to be a really big deal, and with a product as big as this, Apple is going to need a lot of time to get consumers on board, to get developers on board, and there have been a lot of rumors and some speculation that Apple is going to show this off maybe as soon as WWDC in 2022. At the appropriately named developers conference, Apple would sort of show off this new mixed reality headset to developers, show off what they've been working on, what this thing can do, and why consumers and developers alike should get excited about putting this thing onto their heads. And they probably wouldn't release it until the end of 2022, maybe early 2023, but showing it off in June would give developers ample time to get their apps ready for something that is totally different that we've never seen before. The same concept also applies for the Apple Car as well. This is also supposed to be one of Apple's next big things. They're making this a brand new ultra sleek car. It's going to be this EV. It's going to be autonomous. It can drive itself with all this full self-driving stuff. It's supposed to be really, really cool. But a car as big as any car is much easier to leak out than something as small as the iPhone or the Apple Watch, which requires a lot less extensive testing, especially on public roads and stuff like that. So there have also been some rumors lately that maybe Apple shows this off a year and a half, 2 years early. They kind of show off their vision of the Apple Car. This is what it is. This is what it can do. This is the technology inside. This is how much it's going to cost. And this is when it's actually going to make its way onto the roads super early because, again, they need to get developers and consumers excited, get a lot of people to start saving money for this thing, but also the amount of testing this is going to have to go through, the amount of regulatory safety things it's going to have to go through, it's going to be way easier to leak out and is going to have to go through so much sort of public testing in one way or another that if Apple wants to really keep things secret and sort of under their cloak that they like to, they're going to be forced to sort of show it off early or at least show off a preview months, if not years before it actually makes its way onto the road. Not because they want to, but again, for one reason or another, sort of because they don't have another choice. So what are your thoughts on this? What if Apple was a little bit more like Google and was playful with the leaks and rumors? What if they sort of embraced the leaks or they showed off the devices early themselves? Do you think there's a winning strategy here for Apple to show off devices early and sort of show off the iPhone 14 at a huge preview and then release it months later? Or do you think Apple needs to sort of put their nose to the grindstone, ignore the leaks, ignore the rumors, put their blinders on, and just build the iPhone as best they can and as secretly as they can and just announce it and release it sort of as they've done for many, many years? What are your thoughts on this? Should Apple embrace the leaks or not? Should they give us a little preview, a little taste of what could be coming early, or just stick to what they've been doing for years? Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I will see you all in the next one.